Let's talk about the Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous Foundation. Hey guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. So, I, like many other people in the beauty community, have a very strong attachment to Anastasia Beverly Hills. I love their eyeshadow palettes. They make some of my favorite products. I love the aesthetic and the mission behind their brand. So when I heard that they were coming out with a luminous foundation, I was simultaneously excited and absolutely terrified, because if this was bad, I was literally going to riot. So I've been testing this out. I did 4 full day wear tests, 2 of which I filmed. So today I will be sharing my full review of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous Foundation. I'm super excited about it, so without further ado, let's get right into it. I feel like this has been kind of the summer of foundations. Every brand has been releasing like a new drop of, thankfully, very inclusive shade ranges, but still it's just been very overwhelming to see so many complexion drops. I'm trying to like cap myself off and only review a few of them, so obviously this was definitely the one I was most excited about because Anastasia is my personal baby. I'm also planning on reviewing the Charlotte Tilbury foundation and the Fenty Hydrating Foundation, but there's also been the Pat McGrath foundation, which everyone's been liking so far. Milk Makeup's doing a stick foundation now. Looks like Makeup Revolution 2. Case in point, there's a lot of like new foundations coming out, and I've been very happy to see that a lot of them have been on the more like hydrating, medium coverage, dewy side of things. Not only is dewy my personal favorite thing in the world, I think we went through a period where it was all like full coverage, very matte foundations, and now I'm just very excited to see it kind of shifting. I really think it's only a matter of time before they come out with a concealer as well, which I really am excited for. I think they'll do a pretty amazing job of that. So this is the Anastasia Luminous Foundation. There are 50 shades, and I'm super excited to see them coming out with a liquid foundation because their stick foundation is And I'm gonna read off all the claims to you that they have on Trendmood, because when I first saw this list of claims, I was like, yeah, that's ambitious. Medium coverage, natural finish that looks and feels like glowing, gorgeous skin. Vegan, gluten-free, fragrance-free, alcohol-free. Clinically tested, dermatologist tested, ophthalmologist tested? Okay. Non-comedogenic, suitable for sensitive skin, long wearing, $38, 30 milliliters, and 1 fluid ounce. In terms of the amount of product you're getting, it's actually like it's a pretty standard size. I think the price is pretty fair. I believe the Fenty foundation is like $36. Most high-end brands like tend to price their stuff around like $36. That's like Fenty prices, up to like $40, $45, and that's kind of normal. The packaging is very nice. It's a simple pump. I find that the amount of product distributed with just one pump is actually a pretty good, fair amount to cover the entire face. Minor gripe, I literally hate this. This just like screams graphic design is my passion. At least it's not like Comic Sans, but I don't know, it just doesn't really feel in place with the aesthetic of the foundation, especially with Anastasia's normal font. I just think it's a little bit like nice, sleek, classy. Foundation! Could have done without it. It just kind of looks like a foundation that's trying to be in a comic book, but literally the most minor gripe. I just kind of store it so you can't really see the aggressive foundation word. I picked mine up in my local Ulta store. I personally would recommend going in and getting this in a physical store rather than buying it online. I love the shade range. It's 50 shades, very inclusive. It has a really great range of very, very fair skin tones to very, very deep skin tones. However, that does make it a little bit more difficult to really narrow down what shade is perfect for you. But personally for me, if I'd shade matched myself online, I would have ended up with something that was about 5 shades lighter than what I actually got. I have warm undertones, so I was looking at, I think, 200W as my shade, and then the lighter version of the warm shade underneath that. Remember what that was? I think it was 160W. But when I actually went to shade match myself in stores, I wanted to find a shade that matched like my most current perfect match. So that is for me Too Faced Almond. And 210N was actually the perfect match for me. I don't really think this is actually a neutral foundation. I think it's actually more of a warmer undertones. So that might be a problem for people searching for actual neutral undertones or for cooler undertones. Because this is supposed to be the neutral shade, and I think it actually has a pretty strong yellow base to it. It's actually one of the like most perfect shade matches for me, and I'm very excited about that. Pretty much the exact same color as my actual face. So now I want to show you guys how this foundation applies. Let's get into that. Okay, so here's my bare skin. I've already done like my morning skincare prep, so I just have like toner, serum, moisturizer, and sunscreen on right now, and this is just the base that I start with every day of makeup because I do live in a dry climate, which is the lovely, lovely desert that is California. I do deal with a lot of dry patches that you can't really see when my skin is bare, but if I wear the wrong type of foundation, they're there. Those types of spots do tend to be right around here on my under eyes. My skin type is dry, slightly dehydrated. So the Anastasia foundation, I've used a bunch of different primers with it and just tried to find the kind of the best thing. Personally, my favorite way of using it is with the Tarte Silk Canvas so far. I just think this does a really great job of smoothing everything down and kind of creating this nice veil over texture so everything applies really smoothly. I've also tried it with more hydrating primers. I feel like honestly the foundation is hydrating enough that you don't really need that extra layer of hydration on your primer. Alright, foundation time. I'm going to go ahead and go in with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous Foundation in the shade 210N. I've tested this many times with different things. I personally prefer foundation with a sponge most of the time. There's actually very few foundations I like more with a brush, but I'm using the AOA Studio Mochi Wonder Blender. And this is about 1 pump. I'm going to go ahead and blend it out on one side just so you can see the kind of like split in coverage. The first time I used this one, I noticed I really liked how it diffused the coverage. I wouldn't say this is super full coverage by any means. I think you could definitely build it up if you use 2 pumps. Maybe it would be a lot more full coverage than the single pump that I'm using right now, but personally, I really like the medium coverage look, especially with only 1 pump of foundation. I just think it looks really nice and natural and very just skin-like. So honestly, my goal is just for my skin to look like Desi Perkins. This side has the foundation all blended out and this side is unfoundationed. You can see it's not super full coverage, but it definitely did cancel out pretty much all the discoloration and the redness on my cheeks, and it has this very nice like fresh luminous glow. Never forget to take it down your neck as well. I just like diffusing a little bit so I don't have this like nice harsh line of demarcation.
What the f is that?
So that is the 1 pump of foundation all blended out. I would say it's like a medium, almost full coverage. But I think if you want to go ahead and spot conceal on top, it would look really nice because it's such a nice light layer of foundation. It doesn't feel very heavy on the skin either. What I really love about this foundation is that it's one of the only ones I own that doesn't like get weird around here on my nose. My nose is personally my least favorite part of my face, partly because foundation just like refuses to blend on my nose for some reason. I'm going to zoom you guys in so you can just see how the foundation looks freshly blended out, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish up the face. Actually only using a very small amount of concealer. I feel like this did a really nice job of covering up pretty much everything. Normally I'd go in with some concealer on my forehead, a little bit down here on my cheeks, but I'm really just doing my under eyes, tiny bit down the bridge of my nose, and then a little bit on my chin. Fenty Beauty Lavender Setting Powder. Seems fitting enough that I'll use Anastasia's Other Stick Foundation as my contour today. This is the shade Mink, as always. I also really like this foundation because it's very nice for cleaning up mistakes. I think it layers on top of itself really easily. So if you're like me and you apply a little bit too much contour, I like just taking whatever's left on the sponge, or if I want to, I can even add a little bit more foundation on. Just kind of tap it and then even everything out again. The first day I tested this out, I actually did not set my face with any powder except on my under eyes, and I ended up looking very, very dewy at the end of the day. I've been using the Hourglass Veil Translucent Setting Powder. I just think it gives a really nice, very like light dusting of setting down, but it still keeps everything nice and like luminous and glowy. Using the Cover FX Monochromatic Bronzer Duo in Sunkissed Bronze. I think powdered cheek products just really blend beautifully on top of this foundation. Normally for me, I do find that powder thingies are harder to blend on top of more like luminous dewy foundations. This is one of the easiest foundations to blend on top of. And shocker, I'm actually going to use a little bit of this dewy bronzer just to kind of top off the cheeks. I really don't like shiny bronzers on their own, but I think as kind of like a topper, especially if you kind of work it into where the cheekbone would be, it just adds a little bit of extra warmth. For blush, I'm going to use the Marc Jacobs Air Blush in Flesh and Fantasy. it wouldn't be a Dewy tutorial if I didn't set it all in with the Anastasia Dewy set. I feel like this and the foundation were like made for each other. They just look so good together. You really don't need too much. I only use 2 sprays and it sets everything in but makes everything look nice and melted together. I'm going to use the Anastasia and Amrezy highlighter today. I know this isn't technically available, but it is my favorite highlighter and I think it just looks really good with the foundations, so. This is the ColourPop Lippy Pencil in the shade BFF2. Fenty Gloss Bomb in the shade Fenty Glow. Almost the full face of Anastasia. We're getting there. Alright, so to prepare for this review, I did 4 full day wear tests, 2 of which I kind of filmed. I'm not great at vlogging, we know this. The first day I put this one on and I did kind of what I normally do with other foundations, which is not using powder. I pretty much only used powder on my under eyes just to set in my concealer, and then I left the rest of my face completely unset. And then I also topped it off with Anastasia Beverly Hills Dewy Set. So as you can probably imagine, my face was very nice and dewy and shiny. It actually looked very good, like not too aggressively oily, until I would say like the 5th or 6th hour, and then that's when everything started to really get like a little bit too shiny, even for my taste. So here's my foundation at the end of the day. Okay, Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous Foundation after 8 hours of wear. I really don't see any breaking up. It's really just getting dewier instead of like breaking into chunks on my face. I think with powder, it would look better. I just like being shiny because I'm a dewy hell. As you can see, I was definitely very shiny. Like my mother probably would have taken every blotting paper that she owns and just like hit me in the face with it. But I was actually very pleasantly surprised with how well it held up, even though I didn't set it. Normally when I do reach that level of like oiliness, you can totally see the foundation like breaking up, especially on my forehead, on my nose, like on the bridge, and in the kind of crooks here, and then sometimes on my chin as well. This foundation was kind of like letting those oils through, so I was looking very luminous on the surface of my skin, but wasn't like breaking up and chunking up the foundation. And something I also noticed was that it also didn't feel like I was wearing foundation, which I did a poll on my last video asking you guys like what you guys tend to wear for foundation during summer, and the majority of you guys said either like light to medium coverage dewier foundations or no foundation at all, and I personally agree with that so hard. I don't know what it is about summer, and even for me into like September and October, because it's still disgustingly hot here in California, I just hate feeling like I'm wearing a ton of coverage on my face. Thankfully my skin is clear enough and like doing really good this summer, so I can actually go out without foundation on and feel pretty confident, but last year that would not have been an option for me. So it's been really important to me to find things that just don't feel like I'm wearing foundation at all. This felt really light on the skin. The day after that, I decided I would actually go ahead and set in the foundation to see how long it would last. So I did my makeup at the butt crack of dawn, like I'm talking 7 in the morning, and I wanted to see how long it would last. So here is how it looked with powder on. I still think it looked really nice and not too like cakey or powdery, but I definitely knew it was going to last a lot longer than the day before. Alright, so today I'm testing the ABH Luminous Foundation, but this time I set it down with powder, so I'm wearing the ABH foundation with Laura Mercier translucent powder all over the face. Here's what it's looking like immediately after application. Of course, I am probably, after I finish my makeup, gonna go ahead and do like a mist setting spray, so it'll kind of just set everything in and look less like completely powdered down and still have a little bit of shine to it, but I think this is gonna last a lot longer than yesterday. I was gonna try and do a wear test of this foundation until the 12-hour mark. Unfortunately, I only made it to about 5 o'clock. I went to go visit Dr. Kalachadi and he gave me a hydrofacial, so I had to take off my makeup for that. The hydrofacial was my first one I've ever tried, and oh my god, it was amazing. But yes, I did have to take off my makeup, so I didn't get to film the ending like update clip at the end of the day. However, I did have a couple of the people there at the open house tell me that my skin did look very nice. Thank you, Shane Alejandra. One of the only foundations I have that truly does not change throughout the day, like it looks the same when you put it on, and be the YSL All Hours foundation. This one is the most long wearing foundation, and with like a full layer of Laura Mercier powder, this performed just like this. If you powder down, it will feel a little bit less like a layer of moisturizer on your skin, and it will feel more like foundation, but I still think it feels very comfortable. It lasted really well. So overall, I definitely think that the medium coverageness and the dewy claims really hold up. I really love how it looks with the dewy set. That might be a little bit too much dew for some people, but not here. So currently I have some dry patches right down here underneath my under eyes, because that's an area that gets really easily inflamed for me, and this blended so seamlessly and beautifully on top of them. I really wasn't expecting this to wear the way that it did, so I was very pleasantly surprised with how long wearing it was. It still looked good a couple hours down the line. I really do not like touching up my makeup. I kind of just I just don't have the time to do that. If it's going to look bad at the end of the day, so be it. And this one, I just didn't really have to worry about it. I do want to add that this is not transfer proof. So yesterday I was filming part 1 of my fashion lookbook video, and I tried on this like white sweater vest thing, which I kind of ruined the neckline of because I just wasn't really paying attention, and the entire collar is now coated with a tiny bit of foundation. So this is not transfer proof. It will get onto lighter colored clothing. However, when it does rub off, I didn't find that it was showing on my face. So you would be able to see like the foundation marks on the clothing, which thankfully I think will probably wash out. But I like look at my face and it wouldn't be this like band of coverage that's missing. Like you wouldn't really be able to see where the foundation had rubbed off, which was pretty cool. Alright, so I wanted to compare the Anastasia foundation with a few of my other favorite, more luminous Dewy Queen foundations. This is my new favorite foundation in my collection. So none of these necessarily top this foundation, but I do want to share a few like alternatives if you think that they might be better for you. So, Too Faced Born This Way foundation. This is definitely one of my favorites. As you can see, I've used a crap ton of it. Coverage in these is pretty similar, medium to full coverage. I think the Too Faced Born This Way is a little bit more luminous, but it doesn't last as well throughout the day, and it is a bit thicker, so I do feel this one a little bit more on my skin than the Anastasia one. However, these are two of the best shade matches I have in my collection, so I will continue to repurchase both of these. Tarte Babasu Concealer in the shade Fair Light Neutral. This is kind of a toss-up. I really do love both of them. I think the concealer definitely does not last as long throughout the day as the Anastasia one, and this one is a little bit more dewy in that it looks more wet on the skin, so I think this one is one of the few luminous foundations that I really feel the need to set down with a powder instead of just like letting it live its dewy life. Wow, you have wet skin. Personally, I like to set this one down a little bit more, so if you're wanting something that's a bit more dewy than this, I think this is beautiful, but it doesn't last quite as long. Becca Skin Love. I really love this one. I wore it to prom because it is one of the few like luminous foundations that I definitely feel lasts really well. Honestly, I love them both. I probably will use this one a little bit more often because this one is not a good shade match for me very much. I do have to mix this one with shade adjuster drops to kind of get it to the level of like yellowness and lightness that I need it to be. But if you prefer like a squeezy tube bottle over a glass bottle, I think you'd probably like this one a lot. The CYO Life Proof Foundation is probably the closest drugstore dupe I could find to the Anastasia one. I like this one a lot. It is again kind of like that similar dewy finish where it's not like super wet looking on the skin, but it is nice and luminous and dewy. Just like very skin-like and natural looking. It looks like a foundation that used to be matte, but you kind of wore it throughout the day and it just looks nice and glowy, but still held up really well. I think the shade range is obviously a lot better on the Anastasia end. The bottle just feels nicer, it's more weighty, whereas this is a very thin plasticky bottle, but I think the formulas are both really good. And then the Flower Beauty Light Illusion is definitely the most dewy foundation that I own. Again, it's kind of like the Tarte Babasu where it just looks very wet looking on the skin. This one definitely does not last very well through the day. I think this one's like an 8-hour wear at best before it starts to kind of like break up. So this one at the end of the day, it kind of looks very shiny, but it doesn't break up into chunks. This one I feel like can kind of do that breaking up thing if you wear it for too long. But it is a beautiful like going out foundation, so if I know that I'm going to be only out for like 4 hours or so, I'll put this one on. Alright, so en conclusion, I think this shit slaps. And I cannot stress this enough. I'm not just giving this a glowing, super positive review saying that this is my favorite foundation now, just because it's Anastasia. I have laid into Anastasia products hard. I bought this with my own money. I'm not on the PR list. I would love to be on the PR list, but I'm not. I do love Anastasia as a brand, and I really wanted this foundation to work for me, so I was extremely happy that it did. I think this is just a really, really good foundation. I think their chemist did a really great job of nailing down a very good, dewy, luminous, skin-like looking foundation that doesn't feel super heavy, that has a nice amount of coverage in it, that lasts really well throughout the day. I think they just hit a bunch of really good marks of what my ideal foundation is for me. So yeah, this is Julie approved, if that even means anything. And I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody who's been asking me to review this one. It means a lot to me that my opinion means something to you. I hope I was thorough enough in this review and I answered all your questions, but if I didn't, please let me know if I can answer anything in the comments below about this foundation. But yes, I really enjoyed this one, and my pinky nail is gone. We're just not going to talk about it, okay? If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed down below, and also follow me on Instagram to see this dewy ass face on your feed every day. We love that summer uploading schedule. Stream Hot Girl Summer by Nicki Minaj, Megan Thee Stallion, and Ty Dolla $ign because it's truly fire. And if you made it to the very end of this video, you beautiful, talented, brilliant, powerful muskoxes, you get the bonus meme. I love you. Bye.
Strawberry, watermelon,
Chicken strip!